Yakoma, and greetings. Where's the camera? Okay. Yeah, I got it. I got it. What's happening, family? Greetings, 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 greetings. It's been so long since we've been live, but we wanted to come on and talk about. Do people even still go live on this? That's
They
a
have the go
question,
live
right?
button.
Right. So yeah, actually, I guess they do. But we wanted to talk about a particular dynamic about counseling that is misleading our people. So, first of all, I want to say that, you know, it's time for us all to admit that we need some support around relationships. So, whether that's some kind of coaching, what we recommend, some relationship education, or even some deeper work in dispelling and healing some traumas like counseling. So, in the realm of relationship, you have individual work, individual counseling that you can go to prepare yourself for a relationship or to align yourself better to serve in a relationship. Because, relationships, your role is a job. And in order to do that job, you have to clear away all internal barriers. So that's one thing. And then you have couples counseling, which is losing a lot of popularity in the relationship guru era with all of these people that are out here just talking about relationships. I think people falsely believe that they can get deep insight and get instruction from just listening to these podcasts and listening to a lot of people who we pray mean well. I want to will that they actually mean well, but they don't necessarily have the skill set to guide you properly. And unfortunately, and ironically, and amazingly, spectacularly, many of them don't have relationships. So I don't know about that route. But if you do decide to go um, to counseling, some things that you should understand. And the first one is that counseling is not a refereed fight. And Nawasha, could you speak to that? What that means?
I think it comes from, maybe movies. We have a preconceived idea that if we go to counseling, it's going to be mediation in a sense. So someone is going to watch us complain or, just pull apart our gripes about our partner. And I think that that's why a lot of people don't want to go. So the focus is typically on, we know when we do intakes, when people come to us, they say, hey, well, I don't want to go if it was this person's idea. So sometimes even if one of the couple finds us, the other person might be a little bit suspicious because they think maybe this person's going to align with my partner.
Yeah, they feel they chose the one who chose us is we're going to be on their side.
And I think we always focus on a skills development kind of program, and it's two of us, which sometimes helps because there's a man and a woman. But what I know is even when we ask people what they previously have done in counseling, there's this kind of idea that, well, maybe the counselor liked my partner better, or maybe it was a woman and they sympathized or empathized. And this is sometimes not even the counselor, what the counselor is actually doing, but it's our perception that when we go to counseling, the purpose of counseling is for us to still complain, make the gripe, point out how the other person won't get on the program, and we're looking for a professional to tell the other person that they are wrong.
Right.
And I think that this is the misconception that if I go to counseling, I'm going to be able to dump and pour out all the problem, and this person's going to say, yes, you are right, and your partner has the issues. Or they're going to tell the partner, you are wrong, and you need to get on the program. And that is not the purpose of even modern-day counseling. It really is for you to be able to process what you're going through and zoom out a little bit with this other person's expertise and perspective.
Yeah,
But again, I think that we don't get what we want maybe in the first couple of sessions, so we end the therapeutic process, which I think is similar to if you had some other medical process. You might not see results after the first treatment, right?
Right.
Or the first exercise, or the first vitamin intake, right? So you're
Right.
going to have to be able to see a process through, but often we don't know that there is a process when it comes to emotional, social based counseling. We don't, our misconception is someone's just going to listen to me and that'll be great because no one's listening. Someone's going to help me solve this problem and they should be able to give me the insight on the first session. And I don't think that we approach our other kinds of physical healing, maybe hormonal healing, right, in that kind of way.
Yeah, I think, I spoke to someone this week. I spoke to a client this week, and she was doing an intake talking about her partner was saying that he didn't have I'm paraphrasing now, but something like he didn't have the wherewithal to go through a counseling process where somebody was going to be telling him all the things that he's doing wrong. And I want to say to black people that trained professionals, which we are, right? We both hold master's degrees. We got the training in counseling, human services, psychology, and we understand black folks, and we understand the system that's oppressing black folks. And we are a team, man and wife, woman and husband, and so we are representing to the best of our ability what we all are striving for. So I want to say to people that there is no training, there is no therapeutic training to point out right or wrong. And if you're going to a counselor, a therapist, and you're getting that experience, that is a telltale sign that maybe you're with the wrong person, because typically the way we're trained is really not to tell you what to do or to tell you what's right or wrong. It's really to help you to process your own experience, right? And to help you to make decisions based on what you got going on. It's really, and this is part of the reason that I have a challenge with modern day counseling, because you could spend a lot of time in that process and not develop the skills you need. What we're doing at the Coleman House Initiative is we're honoring counseling, which typically looks at the past, but we're cutting through in the present and giving you skills that will carry your relationship in the future to the direction you want it to go. So in that way, it is transcendental. It's 360 degrees, past, present, future service that we're offering. And we could help anyone, but our services are definitely not for everyone. We're looking for blacks in leaderships who've made up their mind that they're tired of going back and forth in this psychodrama. And for a lot of us, and I want to say this to the women, you have to be especially careful, because black men with mediocre sex and food will stay in horrible relationships and not do anything about it. And that's very important to understand, because as long as we can get some sex and some food, we'll just linger and linger and linger. We'll kill you. We'll run you into the ground, in terms of we are in an oppressive system that we are the main target of. And so we've internalized and normalized the struggle of oppression. And so in the relationship, it becomes a microcosmic oppressive experience to the macrocosmic. And so we'll be in a relationship with a woman. I've had many men tell me, I'm talking about married men, they don't like their wives. They don't even really enjoy the sex compared to someone else. But the food is there, the sex is there, there is a modicum of comfort and regularity. And so they'll stay in a relationship that's not productive at all. Now, that's not ideal. And to be balanced, women have their dynamic as well. But, the point is that counseling is not a refereed fight. Counseling is not designed to say one person is right and the other is wrong, and the wrong person should offer recompense to the person who's right. Because in the relationship dynamic, the relationship itself is a third thing that's uniquely distinct from the man and the woman. So we call it the Acoma Love Trinity, the he, she, and the we. So you got him, You got her, and then you have us. Us is where the relationship work is active. Now, him and her can do their individual work, and they should do that because most of us come into relationships gassed up but truly unprepared to make them work. And the longer you stay in a relationship, the more that's revealed. So, again, to all those people out there who are contemplating going to counseling, I think you should understand what it is and what it is not. Most counselors are going to help you process things from the past and get you a reflection. They're going to use um, cognitive behavioral therapy or rational emotive therapy. Generally, one of those two is what they use to help you try to figure it out, right? And then to help you make decisions about what you should do next. That has a place, but I think it takes too long, and it relies on you to understand things that you've never been taught. We try to go in a different direction. Go ahead, you can build on
I
that.
think one of the challenges is that sometimes adults don't put themselves in the kind of environment or environments to be challenged. So when you are asked questions or um, someone's inquiring about your decision making, just that can come off as though it's a critique or that you're right or wrong. And I think because a lot of adults in this modern kind of culture, especially American culture, we have a lot of individualism. We have a lot of whatever you do is right for you kind of
Right,
attitude. So when we say, hey, something's not working and we go to counseling, we actually have our own self-accusing spirit that as
right,
we know sometimes that we're wrong. And so the idea of, let me just tell this story and this person's going to pull it apart, that's really not the job of the counselor. We are here to help. And when we ask questions or we're looking for the zoomed out perspective, just that can come across as this person's going to say I'm wrong, or I know that I was wrong to do that. And that's not what the purpose, it's not a trial. It's not that kind of experience. So we have so many, I think, preconceived notions and a lack of experience, and then a lack of a thing working for us. So even if we do try it, so called, or do it for a limited amount of time, that would be like any other treatment
right,
that we would be doing for our body, for our, skin, for our exercise routine. If we do something and we don't give it the bare minimum of a shot, it wouldn't be fair for us to say that this doesn't work, right?
right,
Or this is not working. And I think that that's what's happened. So because I believe that many people now have a little bit of a jaded vibe about it, the pendulum swings all the way to the other side because we're looking for balance, but it swings to the side where we're like, that I went to the gym and gyms just, they don't work for me. They might work for you, but for me, right? This is kind of how we talk. Or we kind of,
excuse me,
are linked to someone just listening to us, which, as
right,
Masha said, is not going to change your day-to-day life. So one of the challenges with thinking that counseling is just refereeing a fight is you're not even going to the process to develop a skill.
right,
So even if you explain a scenario and the person wanted to say, hey, well, you know what, you need to try this. Because our style of counseling primarily deals with tell me the story about the past and what happened and what you were thinking, and a lot of the questions are in the past. Even when someone makes a suggestion of, well, hey, you can do this, because we are extracted from our day-to-day life to go to counseling and we're talking about it in this kind of reflective way, and then we come back into our actual life, it is difficult to develop the skill, right? Because we're just processing what did happen, and then we're saying, okay, yeah, I could do this differently. But a lot of times the session is not focused on the present and how you're going to do that thing differently. It's a thought process about why you didn't or why you could, and like if you would have,
right,
and maybe there's a little bit of scenario that you can practice. But the challenge is we have a lot of hindsight bias, right? When we show up and say, hey,
right,
well, I tried to
right,
talk to my wife and she wasn't listening. So in hindsight, you can say what happened, right? But then when it's time for you to leave that counseling appointment and go talk to your wife again, a lot of times there's not another entry point or a new way of talking or listening or approaching the conversation that you actually learn. So it feels like I'm putting a lot of effort in And the counselor's open, and maybe they're listening to me, and that could be good enough, but it doesn't change my life. So I think what we need is a new understanding of what it's supposed to be, and I think a paradigm shift in using the development of skills as a cultural understanding, the way that we develop skills in so many other areas of our life, with a kind of understanding that we're at the beginning phase or that we're at an entry point when we come in. Whether it's professionally, in business, we talk to a lot of people that own their own businesses, that are speakers and authors and are, lawyers and doctors and politicians. So people who have mastered something, right? And a lot of times that idea is difficult to transfer to the idea that you would be a beginner in communication. If you are an author and a speaker and a salesperson or, a politician, you speak for a living, right? But then when it comes to something emotional, it's just not connecting with your partner or with your children. And this is something that I think we have to make the transfer with the way that we have approached other things to master it and to be successful, and accept that whatever the age, whatever the degree letters we have, we probably didn't get that kind of preparation for our intimate relationships.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 99% of us do not have qualified skills to be in relationship. And this is even for those of us like me who grew up in communities where all the black couples were intact, right? So I don't come from everybody was a single mom. Everybody in my neighborhood had both of their parents, right? So, most of those people are still together today, and they've been together longer than I've been alive. So I was able to see what black love, functional black love looks like from multiple vantage points. But we're in a new era and a new time, and even people like me, that doesn't automatically translate. You have to understand what it's like growing up in a neighborhood as a child, and you see all the people driving cars, and then you decide to yourself, I know how to drive a car because I've been seeing that my whole life.
I saw red ones.
Yeah, it don't really work like that, right? So we have to get some real skills. And when we look at this dynamic, I see so much fear. It's amazing that two people who can live together, have sex together, make children and stuff like that, really are afraid to be vulnerable and talk to one another, right? And so they come in with so many hyper defense mechanisms around the insecurities that they have, and the ego that they bring in is protecting all of these vulnerable and weak spots. Counseling really works when you come in with a vulnerability. But again, if you're a person who would work with us, we definitely are not going through hours and hours of stories and guess what had happened was and all of that. We're not doing that. We know the skills that you need, so we just give them to you. And we teach them to you, and then we practice them with you, and then you take them in your life and do whatever you want with them, because they're designed from the experience of a legacy of black people that understand in relationships you're only going to have about 5 or 6 problems. So we teach you 7 core skills that's going to help you deal with those problems in perpetuity. You telling the story of what happened last Saturday, or when someone cheated on you, or how hard it is to communicate, is almost, not entirely, but almost irrelevant. Because if we sit and listen to that, we definitely have our opinion, but we're not going to cast judgment, and we don't want to give you quote unquote advice. We want to give you strategy to help you get to where you want to go. So that's what we focus on. But I just felt compelled to come on. We felt compelled to come on and reconnect from the live dynamic and see what's really good with everybody. But also just to say, like, yo, we have to stop with the, especially what I think is profound. It's a lot of jokers out here talking about they don't want to go to counseling because ... fill in the blank. And they ass never been to counseling. Like, this is the ultimate fear and the ultimate terraforming about what this process is like, because I encourage you as black and brown people to go to black and brown therapists. Don't be in there with no Asian therapists. Don't be in there with no white therapists. No disrespect to them. But we have a unique experience as black people. And the greatest challenge that we have is this system that's oppressing us. It's the thing that's turning us upside down and inside out and making these women terrified to death and making these men like emotional Houdinis. Like, now you see me, now you don't. I'm over here, I'm over there, I'm all over the place. And so we got to cut through all of that. So the best chance you have at doing that is somebody who is going through the same experience. But this is what our quick offering is today, is basically just saying, hey, stop being scared. Black men, you have to take the responsibility as the leader of the relationship to do something to better your relationship, bro. You can't just accept whackness because you got a warm plate and a hot box. Like, you can't do that, bro. And sisters, you can start without your men. This is the number one thing y'all be saying. I did want to do it, but he didn't want to do it. You can both be clean without taking a shower together, right? Although taking a shower together is fun. You can both eat without eating at the same time. You can cook, come in at two different times, have the same exact food, but at different times. And there's many things and references you can understand this from. You could do all kind of stuff together, but not at the same time. Counseling is exactly the same thing. So do not delude yourself by saying, I really wanted to go, but he don't want to go. So what? You go, because certainly there's individual work that you have to do, and the responsibilities of the job description called wife go in tandem with the job description called husband, but they're different. So you can't be waiting for a husband to get wife instruction because he ain't a wife. So, and again, for the men, you got to be a leader, bro. You got to, you know what I'm saying? You know that your relationship is not good, and you know that it could be better. And because you have a power and control ego, you want to control every aspect, and the idea that someone else would lead you is unsettling to you, and it is the cause of fear, which then becomes deflecting and procrastination, and just going back into the pattern of some weak sex and some horrible food, and that will bind the relationship for years. And then when you throw in some children, they got to grow up and get out of the house, and then you wasted your whole life with maybe somebody you shouldn't even be with. So, that may not sound like an optimistic view, but I'm just being real with the situation we're in. Everything can be turned around with the skill development, but you have to come to the process with some vulnerability and some honesty about where you really are, and be honest with yourself about what you don't know how to do. So my final thought to you is, what is it that you don't know how to do that you would like to get better at? Coming to learn that thing is how counseling could help you. So, Nwasha, what would you close us out with?
I think that that's the best closer, is really thinking about yourself and what you need, what you think you need to be better at whatever area of the relationship that you think needs the most improvement. A lot of times we're focused on the other person, and this is why we think that counseling is going to be about the refereeing or the mediation. And really, it is about skill development, but we're not always thinking about skills, and we're definitely not thinking about our skills. Even when we say, my partner doesn't express themselves, my partner doesn't listen, we don't look at what we need. So I think that that's the first thing that will help you choose a counselor. It'll help you have a focus and a point and an expectation of how long that should take. And I think that changes the experience. And then, of course, you should keep listening, because we're going to be sharing the skills that we think are the most important for every intimate relationship. And you'll also be able to follow and see which one of those skills is the most important, and where you might have gaps in yourself, and then how it shows up in your relationship.
That's it. So we appreciate you. We're just looking to connect with everybody look out for some more lives, but we definitely have content flowing in several places. And we want to invite all brother and sisters in leadership who are serious about their relationship to click the link in this description and book a free soulmate strategy session so we could talk about what could actually, how we could actually serve you and how you can dispel some of these Negro myths about what counseling is. Um, we rest on three pillars: psychological reparation, which is the healing of our individual and collective traumas; relationship education, which is the art and science of Black love culture, the why and the how of anything that we do, why we do it, and how to do it correctly; and then finally, cultural initiation, that collective process that brings us together and helps us to super learn through the experience of self and others. So if you're interested in that, and if you are a leader, meaning you are a person who has the confidence to be vulnerable and the kind of person who takes action on something that they can see the value in, then we are for you. But if you on that BS and you are coming in kicking and screaming, or you are lingering with beliefs, or if you come to counseling stonewalling brothers and playing manipulation games, or sisters, if you come into counseling begging for the truth and your approach is going to be coming near lying, that's not, please stay away from us. We do not want to be bothered with you. It is psychologically draining for your partner, and we don't live with you. So it's really draining for us. Please stay away. Go find someone else if that's who you are. But if you are that brother and sister in leadership and you're serious about up leveling the quality of your relationship, then we have something we think you would be interested in, and especially if you're Black and you want to be at home, you want to up level your relationship without wasting time in traditional counseling, without losing time away from work or family, and without sacrificing your sense of self. You don't have to lose your identity to be effective in a relationship. If you on that flow, we got you. If you other than, please stay away. Please, 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 please. So with that being said, we will greet you all shortly. And until that time, as always, we say,
Niagoma.
Niagoma.